All right, Joker, for you in the audience, I got a question.
What's up?
If you became a vigilante and you had to pick your number one enemy, you gonna pick a psychiatric patient or you gonna pick a zoo animal?
I'd probably honestly go with a zoo animal. I feel bad, or I would feel bad about beating up a psych ward patient.
I mean, I'm a little torn because when I was emergency room security, I feel like it'd be fairly therapeutic to have the psych ward patient because I'd just be like, this is for all the late nights I got stuck at work.
So that would make sense for you.
Also, I just feel like the zoo animal could possibly be far more terrifying and destructive.
I mean, I'd be cool with that, though.
I mean, fair. Okay, folks. So, welcome to this week's episode of Are You a Fan? Presented by MoonBound Productions. If you like us, give us a like, share us, heck, maybe even follow us. So, this brings us into this week's character. Batman, a.k.a. Bruce Wayne. That's right, we're dealing with one of the classics today, folks.
Yeah, one of the ones that you don't even have to read comics, watch the movies. Like, you know Batman. He's been around so long. He is like the pinnacle of household names in comics.
I mean, he's considered like one of the Holy Trinity in DC Comics.
He is one of the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, so. Okay, well, let's get into it. We're going to start out with Real World. Creation. In early 1939, the success of Superman in Action Comics prompted editors at National Comics publication, The Future DC Comics, dun, 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 to request more superheroes for its titles. Okay, well, I mean, Superman did do really well, so yeah, that would make sense to prompt them being like, hey, what else you got?
I mean, especially at that time, like, they're trying to get, you know, people's hopes up and moods going. Because that was not a good time in American history.
No, because,
you know, everybody was fairly depressed.
Yeah.
So, collaborator Bill Finger recalled that Kane had an idea for a character called Batman. And he'd like me to see the drawings. I went over to Kane's, and he drew a character who looked very much like Superman, with kind of reddish tights, I believe, with boots, no gloves, no gauntlets, with a small domino mask, swinging on a rope. He had two stiff wings that were sticking out, looking like bat wings, and under it was a big sign, Batman. The Batwing-like cape was suggested by Bob Kane, inspired as a child by Leonardo da Vinci's sketch of an ornithopter flying device.
Okay, so,
I guess it's kind of cool to know that at one point he literally did dress like a bat.
Kind of. I don't know where the checkered mask comes in with that.
That was probably the domino mask.
Or the domino mask. Like, that feels like the most random part of it.
Well, the domino mask is like the idea of like Robin. Like the small face mask.
Oh, the small... I don't know why I was thinking of like a mask with actual like domino board, like a checkered board mask. I was just like,
it's the style of mask.
Oh, okay, because I was like, where did you get that idea? Like, wait, why did you think that looked good? Okay, that actually makes a lot more sense now. Okay, so Finger would suggest giving the character a cowl instead of a simple domino mask, a cape instead of wings, and gloves. He also recommended removing the red section from the original costume. I mean, I kind of agree. It kind of feels like, hey, copy my homework, just do it a little different.
I don't know. I think, though, a red and black Batman would look pretty awesome. So, if they did it red, I kind of wish they stuck to the red.
I mean, I feel like they kind of did it right with Bruce Wayne's dad in the
Flashpoint.
In the Flashpoint, like that. Yeah,
but it didn't have as much red. I feel like having the gray be red, so it was much more red in the costume.
Okay, yeah.
Being similar, yes, to Superman still, but being just black and red is a really good color combo.
Fair, and I won't disagree with that. It is an amazing color combo.
So Bruce's Wayne first name would actually come from Robert the Bruce, a Scottish patriot. Which is kind of cool that they used the name from a big historical figure for a comic character's name.
I was gonna say I looked it up a little bit. That guy was a BA, man.
Oh yeah.
Like dang. Okay, so Wayne, being a playboy, was a man of gentry. I don't know what that old termy word is. I imagine rich. I searched for a name that would suggest colonialism. I tried Adams, Hancock, and then I thought of Mad Anthony Wayne. Am I reading that name right? Mad Anthony Wayne? Okay. Yeah. Finger later said his suggestions were influenced by Lee Fawkes' popular The Phantom, a syndicated newspaper comic strip character with which Kane was also familiar. Anthony Wayne's descendant, Blake R. Van Leer, also became an orphan. Aw. Also, The Phantom. Oh my God, I remember The Phantom.
Right. And definitely seeing The Phantom and Batman, definitely you can see some of the similarities.
Oh, hugely.
And as we go over, Batman has had a lot of inspirations.
And from a lot of different areas, too.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, okay.
So, Kane and Finger drew upon contemporary 1930s popular culture for inspiration regarding much of the Batman's look, personality, methods, and weaponry. Details would find predecessors in pulp fiction, comic strips, newspapers, headlines, and autobiographical details referring to Kane himself.
Autobiographical.
That works.
As an aristocrat hero with double identity, Batman had predecessors in the Scarlet Pimpernel, created by Baroness Amaska Orczy in 1903, and Zorro, created by Johnston McCallie in 1919. The Zorro one I did know about, and that because that's actually a kind of a huge little kind of detail in that was the movie they were seeing.
Yep. But it also makes sense, too, because that's where the domino mask would come from.
Yeah.
That's the kind of mask Zorro would wear.
Shit,
and then the cape. There are so many different ones as we get some more in the next section. Like, he was inspired. They used so many different things to inspire him.
He's the Frankenstein of heroes.
He really was. So like them, Batman would perform his heroic deeds in secret, averted suspicion by playing aloof in public, and marked his work with his signature symbol. Kane would note that the influence of the films The Mark of Zorro in 1920 and The Bat Whispers in 1930 in the creation of characters' iconography. Finger drawing inspiration from pulp heroes like Doc Savage, The Shadow, Dick Tracy, and Sherlock Holmes made the character into a master sleuth.
I remember The Shadow.
Yep. And it also, like with Sherlock Holmes, like Zorro makes a whole lot of sense because he got that detective in him.
Yep. And he, like anybody who's read or even watched the 1990s Batman, and that very heavily influenced in that by Sherlock Holmes in the sense of like he uses that deductive detective reasoning.
It kind of makes me wonder if the Dick Tracy 2 was also an inspiration for Dick Grayson.
Ooh, I could see that.
Just off the name.
I could see that. Easily. Okay, so in his 1989 autobiography, Kane detailed Finger's contributions to Batman's creation. One day I called Bill and said, I have a new character called the Bat-Man, and I've made some crude elementary sketches. I'd like you to look at them. He came over and I showed him the drawings. At the time, I only had a small domino mask, like the one Robin later wore, on Batman's face. Bill said, why not make him look more like a bat and put a hood on him and take the eyeballs out and just put slits for eyes to make him look more mysterious. At this point, the Bat-Man wore a red union suit. The wings, trunks, and mask were black. Okay, that's kind of an interesting look.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any images of that original.
Because there was probably none that ever made it out.
True.
Knowing that those were just the early sketches. But I do like the phrasing, just take the eyeballs out.
Right?
It's like, that doesn't sound morbid at all.
Just
Right.
Okay.
So, Finger would continue to say, I thought that the red and black would be a good combination. Bill said that the costume was too bright, colored dark gray to make it look more ominous. The cape looked like 2 stiff bat wings attached to his arms. As Bill and I talked, we realized that these wings would get cumbersome for the Batman, or when he was in action, and change them into a cape. Scalloped to look like bat wings when he was fighting or swinging down on a rope. Also, he didn't have any gloves on, and we added them so he wouldn't leave fingerprints.
Smart.
Which, yeah, that makes total sense, because if you have a secret identity,
Yeah. Kinda.
you don't want to have the risk of leaving a fingerprint behind.
It's kind of that whole, like, the robber left a thumbprint on the door handle upon leaving, as we're just here with our Cheetos, like, idiot.
Right.
Like, but yeah, no.
And that's how they find the Batman. They thought it was a robber.
Okay, so now let's get into the Golden Age concepts and, like, his origins in real world here. Okay, so Kane signed away ownership of the character in exchange for, among other compensations, a mandatory byline on all Batman comics. This byline did not originally say Batman created by Bob Kane. His name was simply written on the title page for each story, which I don't know why that cracks me up.
I don't either.
I feel like because, like, he wanted that, but he didn't specify they had to put in the creator thing, they just purposely didn't do it, and he even saw it. He's like calls them up, like, hey, like, what's this? Like, why doesn't it say it was created? It's like, you did not specify that in the legal documents, and that we are not.
Well, but at the time, there may not have necessarily been a byline per se.
True.
So it may have been, that's why they just put his name on the title page. There's nowhere at the time, because I don't know what the comics looked like at the time. So they may not have had what we have nowadays, where we have the byline or created by.
That's a valid point.
So that's probably what happened, to be honest.
Okay, that's a valid point.
So to add to that, the name would disappear from the comic book in the mid 1960s, replaced by credits for each story's actual writer and artist. In the late 1970s, when Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster began receiving a credited by credit on Superman titles, along with William Moulton Marston being given the byline for creating Wonder Woman, Batman stories began saying created by Bob Kane in addition to other credits.
Okay.
So they eventually just got rid of his name altogether, said no. And when they're like, oh, these other guys are doing that with theirs, we'll do that too.
I also feel like that was a smart move on their part, because I feel like if he or anybody in his family saw that, they'd just be like, so what's going on, DC or Action Comics?
I'm wondering if that's kind of what happened, because you went 10 years, 5-ish years, 10 years with your name not on there anywhere.
Which I feel like
I'm sure there's probably a lot that went on.
Probably a lot of issues there, but I feel like the second they started, like, bringing Wonder Woman's creator and, like, the original creators of the others,
right.
They were like, oh no, you can't give them credit and not give our guy credit.
Right.
Which, fair, valid.
Yep.
Of course, Wonder Woman's creator deserves all the credit. That guy's awesome. Okay, so Jerry Robinson, who also worked with Finger and Kane on the strip at this time, has criticized Kane for failing to share the credit. He recalled Finger resenting his position in a 2005 interview. I mean, creative types all around that. There's always going to be arguments and debates, and
all right, because there has been for pretty much every character we've talked about.
Exactly. So
it's just another piece of history that's nothing new.
Exactly. Doesn't surprise me. Who knows who's correct? We're not here to do deep dives into that.
Right. So Bob would made him more insecure, because while he slaved working on Batman, he wasn't sharing in any of the glory or money that Bob began to make, which is why he was going to leave Kane's employ. Kane should have credited Bill as co-creator, because I know I was there. That was the one thing I would never forgive Bob for, was not to take care of Bill or recognize his vital role in the creation of Batman. Which is fair, because, like,
Yeah.
if you're going to be a co-creator with someone, you got to give them the credit.
Fair.
You can't just take it all, especially in something like these kind of characters that became so big.
I was gonna say it reminds me very heavily of the debate and arguments with Black Panther with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. It's like, oh man, like yeah.
And it's like, and I can't get mad at him for having that argument.
Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, no, Kane kind of being a Richard about this whole thing. So although Kane initially rebuted Finger's claims at having created the character, written in a 1965 open letter to fans, that it seems to me that Bill Finger has given out the impression that he and not myself created the Batman, as well as Robin and all the other leading villains and characters. This statement is fraudulent and entirely untrue. Wow, that's a pretty bold statement considering the arguments going on here. And even one guy being like, Kane, I was there.
Right. Like, this is definitely not, this is not a good way to have done this.
Yeah, like, dang, Kane, you're messing up.
So, Kane himself would also comment on Finger's lack of credit. The trouble with being a ghost writer or artist is you must remain rather anonymous without credit. However, if one wants credit, then one has to cease being a ghost or follower and become a leader or innovator. Okay. Which that is fair, too.
That is fair. The problem with... Because I know a little bit about ghostwriters and stuff. That's always a sketchy field to be in because you can completely get snubbed. And depending on the contracts you sign, there's not much you can really do about it.
Oh, yeah.
Also, at the same time, most of the time, ghostwriters are used for autobiographies. So this is actually, I feel, a rarer case where we're seeing them, like,
right
in this instance. So, interesting. Definitely. So in 1989, Kane revisited Finger's situation, recalling in an interview, in those days, it was like one artist and he had his name over the comic strip. The policy of DC in the comic books was, if you can't write it, obtain the other writers, but their names would never appear on the comic book in the finished version. So Bill never asked me for the byline and I never volunteered. I guess my ego at the time, and I felt badly, really, when Finger died. Did you, though? I mean, he did come out with this statement, so yeah, I guess yes.
I mean, and obviously, moments like that, you're going to feel bad with all these fighting and arguments, and then the guy passes, and chances are they probably never kind of fixed it.
Yeah, true. And honestly, I'm glad he at least feels bad for it and at least came out and he's like, okay, I may have been a Richard about it, but here's how things ran back then. I probably should have just at least given him more acknowledgement that he did this. Because honestly, I'm almost like reading that. I almost feel like there's probably a lot of writers we just straight up don't know about that had like hands.
I'm sure there are.
So that's sad.
So, into the early years of his comics, the first Batman story, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, was published in Detective Comics issue number 27 in May of 1939. Finger said Batman was originally written in a style of the pulps, and this influence was evident with Batman showing little remorse over killing or maiming criminals. Because, yes, that is how he was originally. He did not care about killing.
Oh, God, no. And there are some comic strips where it just gets brutal. Okay, Batman proved a hit character, and he received his own solo title in 1940 while continuing to star in Detective Comics. By that time, Detective Comics was the top-selling and most influential publisher in the industry. Batman and the company's other major hero, Superman, were the cornerstones of the company's success. Which, amazing characters.
It also makes sense when Superman is kind of part of the reason Batman was even created.
Exactly. So, yeah, it kind of tracks.
Yep. So the two characters were featured side by side at the Stars of World's Finest Comics, which originally titled World's Best Comics when it debuted in fall of 1940. Creators including Jerry Robinson, Dick Sprang also worked on the strips during this period.
Okay, that's cool. That's
So
pretty neat.
they started pretty early coming up side by side in the comics, I guess.
Yeah, damn
A
it.
whole lot earlier than I was expecting.
Well, it kind of almost makes the story sadder
Right?
with their end. Okay, Kane noted that within 6 issues, he drew the character's jawline more pronounced and lengthened the ears on the costume. About a year later, he was almost a full figure, my mature Batman, Kane said.
That was a weird way to put it, Kane.
That really was. Like, were you looking to make everybody in that room uncomfortable?
Because that would have done it.
Yep. But also cool because that is Batman's signature, like the cleft jaw.
Right? Like, that was the biggest thing of any Batman that has always stuck around. Like, the ears change constantly, but there's always that jawline.
Yep. And it's honestly why I still argue that Ben Affleck I thought was my favorite Batman, because it just looking at him, I'm like, oh, the cartoon and comic character.
And he had the grin.
Yep.
He had so much going for him.
Oh, so much. It's terrible that they gave it to Snyder. Okay.
So, Batman's characteristic utility belt would be introduced in Detective Comics issue number 29 in July of 1939, followed by a boomerang-like batarang, and the first bat-themed vehicle, the Batplane, in issue number 31, September of 1939.
Wait. So you're telling me the Batplane came before the Batmobile?
Apparently.
Huh. That's cool.
Which is weird.
Also weird. But
Did you think that someone in a city would have a car before you'd have a plane?
But maybe that was the whole thing, was they're just like, he's a bat, he's gotta be flying and that. And then later on somebody brought up what you just did. They're like, guys, he's in a city, I just don't see a plane being the most viable option.
Like, I could see him using like a Batcopter more before he'd use the bat plane.
Yeah.
Because it makes so much more sense, but we weren't around in the 1930s.
True. So who's to say? They had certain things that were in their soda pops back then that,
It is legal now.
So the character's origin was revealed in issue number 33, November 1939. Unfolding in a 2-page story that established the brooding persona of Batman, a character driven by the death of his parents. Written by Finger, it depicts a young Bruce Wayne witnessing his parents' murder at the hands of a mugger. Days later, at their grave, the child vows that by the spirit of my parents, I will avenge their deaths by spending the rest of my life warring on all criminals. Don't know why he had an Irish accent there at the end, but you know what? I didn't write him.
But it is nice, though, that as bad as that story is, that it has literally never changed in all the different versions of Batman.
Yeah. No, like I looked through it real quick because we're doing Golden Age here, folks. If you want to know about the other ones, we may do those later. But it blew my mind that that particular thing has been just true since day one, basically.
As we learn later on with some surprising facts that we found out, that's the only thing that seems to stick around through every version.
Yeah, buckle up, folks.
So the early pulp-inflicted portrayal of Batman started to soften in Detective Comics issue number 38 in April of 1940 with the introduction of Robin, Batman's junior counterpart. He kind of came around a lot quicker than I would have expected.
He really did. I didn't realize he came around that quick. Like, dang. I thought he would have been introduced much later.
At least a couple years later.
Yeah.
But not the same year, like just a year later than when you started the main character.
Right? Like, man, that was a bold move, but it apparently worked out because Robin was introduced based on Finger's suggestion because Batman needed a Watson with whom Batman could talk. Sales nearly doubled despite Kane's preference for a solo Batman, and it sparked a proliferation of kids' sidekicks. So, yeah, Robin is the GOAT as far as kid sidekicks go. He is
apparently the first.
Yeah. We have another first, everybody. All right, that's cool. That's cool to find out.
But I do kind of like with Kane's preference of a solo Batman kind of plays into his never wanting to be on a team.
Yeah, true.
Even though he has the worst habit of being on a team
consistently. I do love how Batman does that though. It's like we gotta do this. Like, no, you guys gotta do this. I'm only part-time. Remember that.
Right.
Okay, so that's basically what we have for Real World. Let's get into In-Universe, folks.
Finally.
I know.
5 pages later.
Okay, let's do this. In-Universe. In Batman's first appearance in Detective Comics issue number 27, he is already operating as a crime fighter. So, kind of just dropping us in mid-already crime fighting. Mid-kapow.
I kind of like, because it gives you room to build the character as the hero first, and then when you need to, you can go back to his backstory.
I will admit, as far as writing goes and that, like, I'm sure some writers would debate it, whether or not that's lazy or whether or not that's actually brilliant. I always think it's brilliant because it lets you plant things in that future, and then it goes back. You can go back later and be like, oh, this is why they do that.
Exactly. And I definitely like that way of doing it so much better than starting with the backstory.
It allows you to not paint yourself into a corner.
Exactly.
So say what you will, I think it's effective.
So Bruce Wayne would be born to Dr. Thomas Wayne and his wife Martha, two very wealthy and charitable Gotham City socialites.
Okay, which that's been true throughout the stories as well. So
yep.
It's nice that that his original has kept up. So Bruce is brought up in Wayne Manor and leads a happy and privileged existence until the age of 8, when his parents are killed by a small-time criminal named Joe Chill. Apparently, guy wasn't so chill.
He had no chill.
Well, on their way home from a movie theater. As we said earlier, Mask of Zorro. Also, Joe Chill, Yeah, man, it's later on in the 52s, what Batman does to him is just like really...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. 52s are not my favorite, but I kind of do like how dark they went at certain points.
That was, I think, the best part about the New 52.
Right? Just because they were just like, you know what? I don't think these stories are going to last. Why don't you shell shock some kids?
Right.
Okay.
So that night, Bruce would swear an oath to spend his life fighting crime, which we had briefly talked about a second ago.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a really young age to swear that kind of an oath.
Right?
Like, I get that your parents were just murdered brutally in front of you, but
it's always one of those, like, you gotta look at Bruce Wayne and you just you're like, man built different. Because just thinking about I lost my dad when I was young. I didn't vow to become a doctor or a police officer. I was like, this is sad. This is really sad. And now I'm here. I did nothing with that motivation.
Nope.
So Bruce Wayne built different.
Very.
Okay. So he engaged in intense intellectual and physical training. However, he realized that these skills alone would not be enough. Batman is just an all-around rounded dude in that. Like you want to talk about jack of all trades? This dude, the king of all trades.
Oh, God, yeah. He definitely took that phrase and beefed it.
Oh, yeah.
So he would continue to say and make remarks that criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot. So my disguise must be able to strike terror into their hearts. I must be a creature of the night, black, terrible. As if responding to his desires, a bat suddenly flies through the window, inspiring Bruce to craft the Batman persona.
Yes, so fun little fact specifically for around this generation and the people that really were in love with the Dark Knight trilogy. Great movies. Not saying anything against them. Calm down. I'm just saying Bruce Wayne was never terrified by bats originally. And that was just something which was a compelling story plot.
And it was for those movies.
It was. But this is just interesting to know that, like, oh, no, he just he didn't have an issue. but solid pick for an animal to scare civilians. Okay, so in early strips, Batman's career as a vigilante earns him the ire of the police. He initially operates alone, using only street contacts and circumstantial allies in his investigation. Batman also comes into conflict with various criminals, including mad scientist Dr. Death. Wow. They really went balls to the wall with naming on that one.
Right.
A vampire called the Monk. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And criminal mastermind Professor Hugo Strange. Oh my God, dang, he made it this far. Hugo Doctor Strange is basically the head psychologist at oh yeah, you know who he is. Yeah. I'm just shocked that he was that old of a character.
I mean, I'm really not as big of a character as he is in the comics.
True. It's just one of those, all these other ones, I'm like, I only know one of these that's made it this far.
I know everybody but the Monk. I've heard of Dr. Death. And yeah, Hugo Strange is such a big part of his story in being the criminal mastermind and plotting other criminals in his way.
Yeah.
I'm really not surprised that he is that early.
I'm a little surprised, but honestly, I really like that. That's kind of cool.
So during this period, Bruce Wayne has a fiancée named Julie Madison, though this is called off after several encounters with a serial killer, Clayface.
Oh, yeah. Clayface was definitely not the Clayface we know today back then.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not. A little darker.
Yeah, a little darker, a little creepier. But still also interesting to see that he had a fiance.
Yeah. Because he never really makes it that far again until very recently with Catwoman.
Yeah. And even that one, just
They're married now.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Keep forgetting about that. After witnessing the murders of circus acrobats called the Flying Graysons, Wayne takes in the couple's son, Dick Grayson. The boy quickly joins him in his crusade as his sidekick Robin to help capture the criminal responsible for his parents' murder. Which is another thing that has been generally kept around and maintained from what I understand. And that, like I said, honestly, Joker, you're actually probably more of an expert on that than I am.
And for the most part, from what I've seen, is it does stay similar. I mean, his, unlike Bruce's, has changed, little tiny details here and there. But for the most part, like Batman, it's stuck pretty well similar.
Okay, I thought so. I just wanted to more confirm with you.
So shortly afterwards, Batman would come into contact with costumed criminals like the Joker and Catwoman, who would begin to take over the criminal underworld in Gotham. I am a little surprised, though, that as being his biggest nemesis, the Joker wasn't one of the first ones he really fought with.
Yeah.
That one's a little more surprising.
Also, you gotta just I love the Joker in the sense that, at this point, as we've talked about in other videos, this is around the same era as the Polka Dot Man. I feel like they were just grabbing ideas, lobbing them at the wall, and just hoping something stuck.
Well, especially when you got to think about how the Joker started. It was the Red Hood and falling in the vat. They really, that's exactly what they were doing.
Yep. They're just a clown who kills people, and it's the fans like that one, keep that one.
Right.
Batman also became a founding member of the Justice Society of America, although he, like Superman, is an honorary member and thus only participates occasionally.
Which I do have a fun fact about that in a minute.
Okay.
So Batman's relationship with the law would thaw quickly, and he's made an honorary member of the Gotham City Police Department. Which is kind of cool to know that he actually does get to that point. And it's not just some random thing that they do for a cartoon or a game.
Yeah.
But it's actually in the comics.
That is nice to know, just because, I don't know. I do, at a certain point, you ever step back from a comic? Not a great thing to do. I don't recommend it. And you just look at it and you're like, Okay, so this is a detective of a police department talking to a man dressed as a bat on the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Just that moment. And now we're just like, and now we're giving him an honorary badge. It's just one of those, like, sometimes getting that perspective and that really can mess with you.
I feel like the only reason they did that is they realized at a certain point he's not really as bad as they thought he was, and he wants the similar concepts they do, and it's easier just to work together.
Also, like, considering how many times Gotham probably should have been smoking Crater.
Oh, yeah.
And that, like, it's one of those, like, okay, we can either keep hindering the only man that's kept, like, a Joker gas nuke from going off, or we can work with him and maybe less people will die.
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly why they made him an honorary member.
I can see that. Okay, so during this time, Alfred... Oh, here's our fun one. So during this time, Alfred Pennyworth arrives at Wayne Manor, and after deducing the dynamic duo's secret identity, joins their service as their butler. That's right, folks. In the beginning, Pennyworth had nothing to do with Batman.
Which blows my mind when you think of every other version of him.
Yeah.
He was there before, like, when Batman's parents died.
Yeah, he was there. He helped raise Master Wayne.
And it's so weird to think that in the actual history, like, no, he wasn't.
You gotta wonder at what point they made that change. Just because honestly, the way he is now, I honestly can't think of, like, it glitches my brain out to think about this.
It hurt me so much last night too when I opened up this to first look at the script. I'm like, there's no way that's true. That's a full-on lie.
Yeah.
There's no way. And I looked up, I was like, huh, that's not a lie. Okay.
Yeah, really weird, right?
It was.
Like, literally, Robin came before Alfred.
That just blows my mind.
What kind of world are we living in? Everything's a lie. I see the code.
So, speaking of lies, I guess things that blow your mind, because I knew it kind of blew my mind thinking of Batman as just a honorary member of the JSA. So a fun fact I found out about that. So the concept was in the All-Star Comics, which would be a comic used to promote the company's second-tier characters, which was and then any character who started their own series was deemed ineligible. For example, because they're in danger of overexposure.
Fair.
So they were ineligible for inclusion. For this reason, Batman and Superman were considered only honorary members and only appear in issues number 7 and 24. And likewise, similar to them, when Flash and Green Lantern were given their own comics, they would, quote-unquote, leave the JSA and become reserve members. Which was kind of... It blew my mind. It's like, how do you be a founding member and only be an honorary member?
Yeah, that's a little weird, but when you break it down, kind of makes sense. Also, it's just like one of those, like, okay, guys, we set up this little superhero club.
And we're going to leave.
Yep. You guys keep the bad guys at bay. We will step in if we need to. Almost like the original almost like a prelude to Teen Titans.
Yeah, kind of.
Actually, if you think, yeah. Okay,
and then, obviously, similar to the JSA, he would be a founding member and part of the whole trinity of the Justice League.
Yep.
Which he was a full-fledged member, at least for a time.
Yeah, it was probably not until more recent that he... one of these days we should do a full-blown Justice League episode.
I'd be down.
And that,
That'd
just
be
like
interesting.
The creation of that.
Yeah, I'd be down.
And just do a quick cap of everybody that's been in and out. That'd be fun. Let us know in the comments if anybody would like to hear that. Okay, so now let's move on to powers and abilities. This is a long one.
Have
fun. Okay, so powers and abilities. No actual powers. Or as Green Lantern would ask, you're not just some guy in a bat costume, are you?
And he just turns around and smirks.
Right. Okay, so one of his actually most prevalent power and ability, he's rich.
That's it.
That's it. Guy got money. Okay, he's also an expert in scientific knowledge. He has detective skills. He has a physical prowess of literally an Olympic athlete. That's how much he trains. and a master of disguise and multilingual, which, God, that's impressive. Like,
oh god, yeah.
the amount of languages the character has used, I'm like, dang.
Right.
Giving the dude from River Monsters a run for his money. Okay, so he has fully utilized his photographic memory to master a total of 127 different forms of martial arts, including, but not limited to, Aikido, boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, fencing, judo, karate, Krav Maga, Muay Thai, ninjutsu, wrestling, and numerous different styles of wushu, also known as kung fu. Honestly,
that is a very small section of that list.
And here's the messed up thing. He is considered a master of all of those.
Yeah, like he is like the top of all of them.
Which only blows my mind to know for a fact there is at least one other character in the DC universe that is superior martial arts to him that Bruce Wayne will literally send other people to train with. Because he's like, no,
I remember seeing that in one of the cartoons.
Yep. He's like, she is better than me. And it's like, aren't you a master of everything? He's like, I mean, yeah.
Who do you think taught me?
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of blows my mind.
But it's also crazy to think that he's a master of all these different forms, which in theory, in his age, should be impossible.
Yeah, to master a form can take years. Like just one form. And that one style, like I technically am not even a master of wrestling. And I did that for years. I went to state. I fought the best the nation had to offer. I ain't a master. So feeling a little emasculated, I think is what I'm trying to say. So Batman is strongly disciplined, and he has the ability to function under great physical pain and resist most forms of telepathy and mind control. Yeah, he actually knows a lot of mental tricks to keep people trying to get into his mind.
Which is impressive.
That's what threw Martian Manhunter off a few times when they've met in certain shows and comics. Okay, so expert in espionage, often gathering information under the identity of notorious gangster named Matches Malone. That's just a funny name. Okay, so he's skilled in stealth, movement, and escapology, which allows him to appear and disappear at will and break free of nearly inescapable death traps with little to no harm. I love how they throw in the little to no harm factor.
I mean, because there have been times, especially in the cartoons, where he doesn't quite leave unscathed.
Right? Just
pretty close, but...
Just walking out like, I need to find a door because my shoulder's just flopping around over here.
Because honestly, that's how he gets out of a lot of them, is just dislocating something.
Yep. Okay. So now, I'm not going to go into full, but I'm just going to say a few things. His weapons and equipment. Like the martial art thing, there's just too many to count. I think we can kind of already assume the Batmobile and just Bat vehicles. That's a thing.
Vehicles, Batarang,
the Bat grappling hook, the Battery.
I was just thinking that.
But like some fun ones that he's had is his customized body armor, which ultimately he has as many bat suits as Iron Man has Iron Man suits.
Where do you think they came up with that idea?
I don't doubt it. And yeah, easily. Okay. Okay, his utility belt, obviously. We also... Oh, wow. It's not as many as they listed. Okay, so let's go over some fun ones real quick, though. And that there is the shark repellent spray. Also, a lot of plastic explosives, which... Just one of those, like, for back then, actually probably makes...
I was like, for the early years, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
But nowadays, not so much.
Which I love in the games, whenever he has to blow something up, he still makes it in a bat symbol.
Right.
Like, people are dying. Are we really taking the time to get your art to put your signature on this?
Or, a bad guy with a gun's coming around the corner to shoot you.
Yeah.
You're spending the extra 10 seconds to do this.
Right? Like, god dang it. Also, night vision goggles. He's also come up with plenty of different different types of like there was one time he came up with basically a way so he could see using sonar, and that way he lost his vision.
Yep.
He's created different suits based upon the elements he needs to deal with, different technology. Also from the 1900s movie, a batarang that has a literal tracking thing on it, so you can tell it how many men to hit.
Yep.
Also, just like so many explosives. Also, just a weird thing. He always keeps a marble on him.
That was interesting.
Yeah, he actually, when the Justice League first set up the table, and then they're like, it's perfectly level. He put the marble in the middle, watched it move. He's like, no, it's not.
I wonder if that's the whole reason he cares, is just for stupid reasons like that. Just to prove it wrong.
I actually did find out, I guess, like that was a thing for non-powered heroes and detective heroes to use, is a marble to imitate footsteps. Yeah, for like going downstairs and stuff.
I mean, which is, I get the idea, but at the same time, it's only a marble. That's not going to imitate steps very well.
I mean, I feel like everybody kind of had those wooden shoes back in the day, to an extent. I don't know. I'm not a detective from the 1940s.
I just feel like it'd be too light of a sound.
I think it depends on the size of the marble.
That would be a big marble to be close to a footstep.
Because there was a show I was watching. The marbles that she used was about like bigger than an eyeball. I forgot that we aren't on camera right now. I was just showing Chris like it's this big, as the audience is just gonna be like, what's d-rael talking about? Okay. So that's kind of it for his gadgets. The gadgets alter extremely based upon the scenario, because Batman with prep time is ultimately as dangerous as the kid from Home Alone.
Oh, God, yeah. I'd love to see the two of them duke it out.
Right? Okay. Good luck, Joker.
Yeah, so into the next fun section, our other media. I knew, honestly, when we decided we were doing Batman, this is the one section I did not want to do. It's the one character I did not want to do the section on, because it was a 2-page on its own.
Dang.
So, just in general, other media, the first adaptation of Batman would be a daily newspaper comic strip, which premiered in October 25th of 1943. The same year, the character was adapted into a 15-part serial Batman, with Lewis Wilson being the first actor to portray Batman on screen, with a second movie serial, Batman and Robin, following in 1949, with Robert Lowry taking the role of Batman.
So, that's kind of just interesting to know that oh man, I am so sorry, sir.
Adam West.
Adam West wasn't the first.
Nope. He was not the first by almost 20 years.
Dang.
So while Batman would never have a radio series of his own, the character made occasional guest appearances in The Adventures of Superman, starting in 1945 on occasions when Superman's voice actor Bud Collyer needed time off. Which is a good way to do that. It's like, hey, you need time off? Well, let me have my character in for a day.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty brilliant.
So he has one stage performance, Batman Live, which debuted in July of 19th of 2011.
I love it.
Right.
I love that exists.
So into TV. So as we briefly mentioned, the Batman television series starring Adam West would first premiere in January of 1966 on ABC and will run for 120 episodes ending in 1968. It ran a little longer than I thought it did, to be honest.
Huh.
I knew it wasn't a hugely long one, but I thought it was a little shorter than 2 years.
Honestly, I kind of thought so too, because like as the show had a lot of complications besides the reception of fans.
Oh yeah,
and I let a lot behind the scenes, and a lot of the comic book fans were not thrilled about it.
Which I don't blame them. I've seen. For the time, Adam West's Batman was not bad. But also, as knowing comic fans today, I can only imagine how much worse they were then.
Oh, right.
And Adam West's Batman was very different than the comics.
Oh, yeah, he was.
But an interesting is between seasons 1 and 2, the cast would actually make the theatrical film Batman in 1966.
Which was the first appearance of the Joker character in that live action.
Nice. So the popularity of the Batman TV series would also result in the first animated adaptation of Batman in the Batman Superman Hour. The Batman segments would be repackaged as The Adventures of Batman and Batman with Robin the Boy Wonder, which ran for 33 episodes between 1968 and 1977.
Yeah, given time, that's actually not a bad run.
It really isn't, and especially for the fact that it didn't start out as just a U show.
Yeah, like it was a shared show, and back then for it to last that long, not bad.
That's impressive. So from 73 until 86, Batman had a starring role in ABC's Super Friends series, which was animated by Hanna-Barbera, which I remember those cartoons.
Oh my god,
That is like the superhero cartoons we grew up with.
Dude, I remember watching those.
Right.
Ah, man. You know what? They weren't the best, but they were good. They were good.
They were good for their time.
Anybody that lives in Colorado, Washington, or California, give them a watch, and you know with what.
So in 1992, Batman the Animated Series would premiere featuring Kevin Conroy. You know, at this point, the voice of Batman.
Honestly, nobody's done it like him.
They really haven't.
Yeah.
Like, there have definitely been some close ones, but kind of like the Joker and Mark Hamill, nobody quite will ever topple Kevin.
Nope. The day that somebody does, and that's the day that I'm like, okay, Kevin, you can go now.
Right.
It's okay.
So the series' success would lead to the theatrical film Batman: The Mask of the Phantasm in 1993, as well as various TV series that include Superman the Animated Series, The New Batman Adventures, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited, each of which featured Conroy's Batman's voice, and then Batman Beyond, which featured Conroy as an aged Bruce Wayne as a mentor.
Still killed the role.
Oh god, yeah.
Dang it, man. Do you have no wrong in you?
No, it's not when it comes to Batman.
True that.
So in 2004, The Batman made its debut in 2008. The show was replaced by another animated series, The Batman, the Brave, and the Bold. He's had a lot of cartoons.
Oh my god, so many.
And then in 2013, a new CGI animated series titled Beware the Batman would debut. In 2014, the live-action TV series Gotham would premiere, featuring David Mozaz as a 12-year-old Bruce Wayne, which actually isn't a horrible show. It's definitely...
I've seen some things on it that make me want to watch it. It's just, as we talk about comic book fans, I'm a comic book fan. There are certain things they do where I'm like, no.
It definitely bugs me a little bit too. But it's definitely when you go into Gotham knowing it's not a Batman show per se.
Yes.
It's more of a Gordon and just Gotham TV show.
Yeah, we can talk my issues about that in another episode.
So Ian Glenn would portray Bruce Wayne in the second season of Titans in 2019. And then May of 2021, it was announced that a new animated series titled Batman Cape Crusaders was in development by Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, and Matt Reeves. The series is said to be a reimagining of the Cape Crusader that returns to the character's noir roots. Hearing that, I'm very excited.
I'm actually really excited.
I'm kind of hoping we see a Batman that kills again.
You know what? I'd be down kicking it old school.
God, now it's just TV.
Yeah. Okay.
So, going into the films, it's kind of broken up into little sections. So, his early films, we have Batman in July of 43, Batman and Robin in June of 49, Batman the movie July of 66, and then between 1989 and 1997 film series, you have Batman June of 89, Batman Returns June of 92, Batman Forever June of 95, and Batman and Robin of June 97. Which are kind of some, except for the first two movies. The second ones were, last two were kind of meh.
I have nipples. Can you milk me? Look at these nipples. Why do you have nipples on your suit? It's distracting, isn't it?
Very.
It's like, yeah, wait until the bad guys see.
So he would have 2 animated films, Batman Mask of Phantasm, and then the Lego Batman movie.
Still haven't seen the Lego one. I hear it's good.
Yeah, same. I need to watch that.
The Phantom, though, I highly recommend it to everybody.
God, yeah. That was great. He would have the Dark Knight trilogy. There was no point in writing out those.
Nope.
And then he's had a few in the DC Extended Universe. You have the Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. He has the appearance in Suicide Squad. You have both versions of Justice League, both the regular and Zack Snyder's cut. He is set, which I didn't know about this, but he is set to appear in a Batgirl film on HBO Max in 2022, portrayed again by Michael Keaton.
Oh, yeah!
But I didn't know they were making a Batgirl film. I knew Keaton was coming back because he is set to appear alongside Affleck in The Flash in 23.
Oh, my God.
Portraying their versions of Batman.
Yes.
And obviously the one that just came out, he stars in The Batman, released in March 2022.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that was kind of cool to hear that there was a Batgirl film.
Oh, my God. I'm pretty excited about it.
And I'm also excited to see Keaton come back.
Dude, right?
Out of the early characters, he was definitely one of my favorites.
I'd say he did the best dual rolling of playing Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Because especially the early actors, they either did Batman really well and kind of an iffy Bruce.
Or they did Bruce Wayne very well and kind
not
of
a great Batman.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was definitely a good mixture.
He killed it, which is only funny because he was a comedian actor.
Which is ironic.
Yeah.
That he kills it as a brooding character.
Right? Like, he nailed. But I mean, I guess comedians aren't exactly the happiest lot. So
right.
He's like, I got this. Don't tell me how to brood. I do it all the time.
So, similar to the movies, video games is very shortened. He appears in 23 games on a majority of gaming systems throughout all the years.
Yep.
The first one being Batman in 1986. There's 2 Batman games in 89 and 90, both based on the 89 film. One, I guess, was much looser based. One was much more closer to the film. Batman Return of the Joker, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, and Batman Begins.
Okay.
The Adventures of Batman and Robin was one on the SNES that I grew up playing. That was a fun game.
I never got to play that one.
He appears in 7 DC Lego games. I don't know for sure if there's more, so that's why I only said that.
Okay.
He appears in 7 Arkham games, which, everybody knows the Arkham series.
Oh, yeah, we do.
And he appears in 8 other games, including Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe Online, and both Injustice games.
Yeah.
And he also appears in the announcement trailer for Gotham Knights, set to release later in 2022.
I'm pretty excited for that one.
I'm also curious if he's actually going to show up in the game.
It's a good question because,
it's supposed to be set after he supposedly dies.
Yeah. Spoilers, by the way.
That's all we know about from the trailer.
True.
So, he also has an album kind of inspired because of him. So, the album Nightfall by Swedish band Silent Images is based on Batman Nightfall's story arc. With Batman serving as a central character, Nightly Priest, the album explores the underlying socio-political themes of the Batman universe and his struggle against the Venomous One, the album's interpretation of Bane. Which, now I really gotta go find this album.
Oh my God. I know what we're listening to when we get home. I'm YouTube. I'm looking this up. We're finding this.
Right.
Or I'm going on Amazon to see if we can get some vinyl. Okay. Well, folks, that's kind of it for Batman. If you want us to cover another era of him in that, it'll be a lot shorter video because we won't have as much real world for it. But honestly, I guess I'll ask what I always ask. Joker, you a fan?
To be completely honest, at a bare minimum, yes. Only because of what has come because of Batman. But at this point, he's been around so much, and we've had so many different versions and movies. I wish they'd just move on.
You know what? Yeah, I kind of agree, but at the same time, he was up there with the Spider-Man of I grew up with that.
Yep.
Man.
But yeah, I'm definitely more of a fan of his Bat family than I am of him.
And see, I've been a fan of him and some of his villains. As
Villains, yes.
And that Bane's the GOAT. But you know what? I'm a fan too. For anyone that's still listening, if you got something out of this, enjoyed the episode, or even liked the character before from a movie, a comic, cartoon, hell, even that t-shirt that you saw one time, you're a fan too. If you want to jump on this train, why not subscribe and share with a friend? d-rael out. Y'all keep riding them rails.